Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the science fiction film, Minority Report. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. In the year 2054, homicide rates in particular are at an all-time high in the United States. The Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., established a new task force dubbed Pre-Crime in an effort to stem the violence, enabling a specifically designated team to aggressively prevent murders before they can even be committed. They accomplished this using three mentally altered people known as precogs, short for precognitives, who are able to predict the future. Two painted wooden balls with the names of the murderers and the victims engraved into them are processed by an automated system when the precogs predict that a murder will be committed. Each wooden ball's shape and grain are distinct, making the system completely tamper-proof. A brown ball denotes a premeditated murder, which the precogs may predict up to 4 days before it is performed. The color of the ball also reveals the type of murder that will occur. A red ball denotes a crime of passion, which is frequently not noticed until at least an hour before it will be committed since it lacks premeditation. The offender, the victim or victims, the precise day and hour of the crime, and the precise series of events that preceded the crime are the only three things that the precogs can predict. The Pre-Crime Task Force, headed by John Anderton, Tom Cruise, must go through a painstaking process known as scrubbing, in which they analyze the images created by the precogs' visions in order to find obvious clues and so narrow down the location. The squad takes off in a special aircraft to stop the crime once they are confident of the location. The offender is then apprehended by haloing them, which involves placing a gadget around his head to completely incapacitate him. In the opening moments of the film, Anderton's crew successfully captures a red ball case. Howard Marks, a guy in his 40s, will be the culprit. In precisely 24 minutes, he will discover his wife Sarah having an affair with Donald Dubin. Howard will stab them both to death with a pair of scissors when he finds them together. Anderton scans through the photos as Danny Whitwer, Colin Farrell, a Justice Department representative dispatched to inspect the pre-crime system ahead of a congressional vote on whether or not to make it a national program, arrives. As Anderton continues to examine the vision, one of his co-workers, Fletcher, explains to Whitwer how the system functions in general. Whitwer is left behind at pre-crime headquarters while John quickly narrows down the location and joins a number of other pre-crime officers traveling there. Just before Howard's picture of what will happen is realized, Anderton and his team locate the home and stop him. Howard is quickly apprehended and haloed after being recognized by an iris scan, while his wife and her lover receive trauma response unit counseling right afterwards. The murder is shown again on the monitors at headquarters after the culprit has been caught. Whitwer notices these and asks one of the technicians about them. He learns that occasionally, after a crime has been stopped, the precogs experience these echo visions before the images are erased from the system. That evening, Anderton watches old home movies of his ex-wife Laura, Catherine Morris, and his kidnapped 6-year-old boy, who vanished at a public pool some years prior. Additionally, it is revealed that Anderton is dependent on the illegal inhaled hallucinogen new heroin. The official tour of the pre-crime headquarters begins the following morning for Whitwer. Whitwer makes various observations on possible ethical concerns with the precogs throughout the tour. Because of the nature of premeditation and the fact that the precogs predict what the killer will do rather than what they intend to do, Anderton and his colleagues claim that the system is practically foolproof. As a result, they say, they don't receive false alarms from people who think about killing someone but never actually carry it out. Anderton leads Whitwer into the room where the precogs are kept hooked to the pre-crime computer system while they are semi-conscious in a pool of fluid resembling amniotic fluid. Despite being somewhat impressed by what he has witnessed and despite the fact that there haven't been any killings in Washington, D.C. since the program began, Whitwer is still of the opinion that the program isn't perfect. After Whitwer leaves, the precog Agatha, Samantha Morton, suddenly becomes fully awake, and videos of a woman being murdered begin to play throughout the chambers. Anderton descends to containment, where many other haloed pre-crime attackers are housed, curious about these visions. Anderton locates the attacker who was in Agatha's previce with the help of a manager named Gideon, Tim Blake Nelson, albeit he is categorized as a John Doe because he switched out his eyes for someone else to trick the identification sensors. When Gideon tries to access further information on the case, he discovers that Agatha's previce is missing from the three precogs. Additionally, there is no information available regarding the whereabouts of the alleged victim, and Lively. The only data the computer has on her is that she was a single mother and a Neuroin addict. Nevertheless, records show that she visited a rehab center to kick her habit. Director of Precrime Lamar Burgess, Max von Sydow, is informed by Anderton of his findings and advises him to discontinue the case. He shifted his focus to the idea that they would need to find a mechanism to defend Precrime from powerful interests once it was implemented nationally. Anderton promises his mentor he won't permit that to take place. When Anderton gets back to his office, he receives notice of a murder that will happen within the next 36 hours. Leo Crow is known to have been the victim, but who committed the crime is still a secret. Anderton is shocked as he starts to study the data when he quickly learns that he is the culprit. John suspects Whitwer of setting Anderton up as he tries to leave the building before his co-workers learn of this revelation. However, Anderton runs into Whitwer in the elevator. But as soon as the building's alarm goes off, Anderton hurries out of the elevator and outside. Officers from Precrime quickly locate John. He succeeds in getting away from them, but Whitwer and a few officers later discover him. The group enters an automated auto assembly plant during the chase, where Anderton manages to escape in a brand new vehicle. He travels to the home of Dr. Iris Heinemann, Lois Smith, whose studies set the foundation for the Precrime program after discovering that some offspring of Neuroin addicts quickly develop the capacity to predict impending homicides. Heinemann argues that the three precogs don't always agree on their predictions of the future. When this happens, the one that differs the most from the others is usually disregarded. This is somewhat unusual but still makes sense. Anderton must ascertain whether he has a minority report that will exonerate him in order to prove his innocence. When Anderton questions who of the precogs would produce a minority report, Heinemann responds that Agatha is the most talented of the three. Anderton has an eye transplant from a dubious doctor since everyone is subject to iris scans everywhere they go. The doctor is really one of John's former patients, who he busted for performing dubious surgery, but the doctor nonetheless goes forward with the treatment, leaving John to recover alone. He dreams about the day his son was taken from a swimming pool while recovering from surgery, and when he wakes up, the Precrime team is searching the building for him. The spiders are tiny robotic eye scanners that are sent into the rooms. One of them locates Anderton and scans his iris, but the surgery was successful and he is not identified. Infiltrating the Precrime headquarters once more, Anderton takes Agatha out of the precog's chamber to stop the trio's hive consciousness from maintaining the system. He brings her to one of his hacker friends, who is able to get Anderton to witness her vision of Crow's murder. Anderton understands he doesn't have a minority report when the vision remains consistent with what he had previously seen. Agatha suddenly starts convulsing, and the scene of unlively drowning reappears. Anderton is seeing the vision when his companion tells him that there are Precrime officers around. Agatha and Anderton narrowly escape Anderton's crew by using the tactical knowledge she is able to anticipate the near future to their advantage. Anderton locates Crow's residence and enters his apartment. Crow is not there, but he discovers a collection of pictures of kids, among them his missing son. Anderton decides to assassinate Crow, whom he now holds responsible for the kidnapping, after realizing there is no minority report in his case. When Crow walks in, Anderton punches him to get a confession while Agatha begs him not to do this crime. Until the timer on his watch goes off, the time when the murder is scheduled to happen, Anderton remains blind to her pleadings and plans to kill Crow. Anderton finally gives in and starts reading Crow his Miranda rights. In order to set up this specific confrontation, Crow confesses that the images were altered and provided to him to place in the flat. Crow takes hold of Anderton's gun hand, points it in his own direction, and pulls the trigger to fulfill a promise made to his family that they will receive money only if he is killed. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.